It's actually getting quite warm now, which is quite nice because I really do miss summer. So I can't wait for summer to be back. If I sound a bit out of breath, it's just because I've actually got like a Fitbit. I bought a Fitbit today because I want to track my steps and my sleep. So, and I just decided to like hit a massively intense workout. So I'm a bit out of breath, but I wanted to make this video just sitting down and just talking because I feel like it's quite an important subject. It's something that like I feel like a lot of people face, including myself. I feel like I've definitely faced this before, and sometimes it does kind of like switch on and off. But yeah, it's very common, especially in today's day and age, and it's just comparing yourself to others, basically. I've also got my notes. I made some notes. I don't normally like make notes or anything like that for a video, but I thought I'd just kind of write down some of the key things that kind of helped me overcome this feeling of not being able to compare yourself with other people around you. And because the problem with that is that it leads to a very suboptimal life. Like, if you're always thinking about like, why am I not better than anyone else, or why am I not on that level, then your actions, your mindset is shifted into giving you very suboptimal actions. And when you have suboptimal actions, it leads to suboptimal results, suboptimal lifestyle. So what we want to do is basically just be a bit more mindful of this and try and kind of live in the optimal standards that we can do and constantly improve. And it's just an idea of like being better than you were yesterday. And I don't know, you probably have felt this way. And one of the actually reasons why I want to make this video, even though none of my friends are going to be watching this, or they don't really know I've got a channel or anything like that, but I can definitely see, people around me that always feel this way. I think especially when you're quite young, when you're in your early 20s, it's just very natural to compare yourself, because we were on this position of school or university, like you get this routine, and then all of a sudden you just kind of have the same people around you, and when you see everyone go off and do their own thing, there's nothing else just to compare yourself with someone else, right? And I know like one of my close friends currently is going through this, and I just thought, you know what, like I wanted to share what I've explained to him, just because like maybe it can help you as well. I don't know, hopefully it can. But yeah, the first thing is like, why do we compare ourselves to anyone else around us, like people we see? Comparison in itself is very common. Like, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just a thing, it just happens. Like, we distinguish between things because that's the way we think, and it's very normal. Like, I can distinguish, like, for example, let's say I'm playing football or soccer or whatever. I like to say football because I'm from the UK here, but I'm predominantly right-footed, and I can use my left foot, but my right foot is stronger. So if I was going to pass the ball to someone, I can distinguish which foot I would want to ideally pass with, and that would be my right foot, because I know the accuracy would be there, the pace would be there. So I'd prefer to pass on my right foot. Yes, I can pass on my left, but I can distinguish between which foot is ideal in that situation, right? So it's a thing in terms of kind of comparison, it's fine. Like you're going to be able to compare with many things, right? But the thing where it gets a bit tricky is when you start to compare yourself with others. When you start to compare yourself with other people, you start comparing things like, things that will really not benefit you. Things like position in your life. Why have I not reached this sort of height, but they have? And things like what you have and what you don't have. Why does that person have this and I don't have this, or whatever it is? And when you have this kind of way of thinking, all it is doing is bringing you down and causing you to feel like that in the future. Because whatever action we take right here in the present moment, this is why the present moment is extremely, extremely important. Because whatever you think, whatever action you do right now in the present moment determines your future. So if you think in a way, well, like to say a suboptimal way, your future is also going to lead to a suboptimal future, So it's very important to, whenever you have these thoughts, is number one is to identify and be aware. Be mindful of your current state, your current way of thinking. Because say I'm going to be thinking, oh my God, why am I comparing myself? Sorry, say I think, for a moment, I think, listen, why do I not have what they have? Instantly, if I cannot delve into that emotion, but instead identify that I'm actually thinking this way, like, for a second, okay, what I'm trying to explain here is, I'm trying not to make it complicated, but let's say I think in the future, I think right now, why do I not have what they have? What I can do is either A, delve into that emotion, start going into a rabbit hole of comparison, and just feel sorry for myself and lead to very, very suboptimal actions, which leads to a suboptimal life. Or I can instantly be like, damn, I'm comparing again. Why am I comparing? And then leave it as that. Because I've identified that I'm comparing myself without having judgment to it, which leads to because I've identified it and I'm completely aware, I can, reflect and just not delve into that emotion any further, not interact. And if I don't interact, then I won't, kind of lead to have actions that also are suboptimal, if that makes sense. So I think identifying it, number one, is crucial. Number two, it's more like just understanding that not everyone, like no one in this world is going to be exactly the same as you. No one, both physiologically and mentally. So physiologically, it's pretty obvious, like everyone in the world has a different fingerprint and different body, different eye shape, different hairstyles, you can look very similar to someone, like for example twins, but they are physiologically different. And it's the same mentally, because we grow up in different environments, we have different conditionings. When you're growing up, we are conditioned differently, but we also are wired differently and we think differently. So everyone in the world is completely unique, and when you are unique, you need to understand that even though someone may have like a Ferrari at the same age, whatever, you just see that person with a Ferrari and you make your own assumption that they have everything that they want, that they are, living life perfectly, but you see the exterior. You don't actually know what's in their head. And I'm not saying something that's groundbreaking here. This is very evident, but I just want you to understand that, like, these people, even though you think you're making a judgment, you're making an assumption here that this person has X and I don't have X, which means that they are better, they're having a better life, whatever. It's not the same thing. Like, that person might have a Ferrari, but they might actually want to, I don't know, they might have a completely terrible life, or like they might have something that's going on that's very deep, and like, and that you don't have. It's the idea is here that you don't really know what other people have, and it's important to understand that we are not the same. And just because someone has something doesn't mean that they, like, your understanding of happiness doesn't mean that they actually have that. So how do you kind of overcome this? I think it's just a mindset shift, and that's what has helped me, like, 100% for the past year. Like, I think I've just stopped necessarily comparing myself, because the reason how I kind of approach it is because instead of you thinking, all right, let's break it down here. How does comparing yourself end up to a worse life? Well, number one, you have comparing itself, which leads to negative thoughts. Because when you start comparing yourself to someone, you automatically have negative thoughts. And then negative thoughts leads to suboptimal actions, right? Like, actions which are not actually beneficial for you, right? Then when you have suboptimal actions, it leads to a suboptimal life, because you start to implement these actions, and then once these actions are constantly, because they're in your mind all the time, once these actions are constantly being used, they become a habit, and then eventually it's just autonomous. Like, without even thinking, you are performing suboptimal actions. You're not even thinking, because it's already ingrained. This is the cycle that you need to break. So to break the cycle is number one is to improve on your awareness. It's to improve being mindful at all times, and to improve on your awareness. Now, I'm not going to make a video on I'm not going to go into how you can improve on your awareness, because there are a lot of different ways, but I would recommend just Googling it, or go on YouTube, type it in, how can I be more mindful? How can I increase my mindfulness? How can I be more aware of certain things? I think that's the number one thing. Once you've improved your mindfulness, your ability to be aware of your emotions, of your thinking, and how you react to certain stimuli, how you react to certain things in day to day, then you're in a very good position. Because if you are faced with your own self thinking, well, I'm comparing myself, you can immediately shut that down, because you're not even in a habit here, because you identify that this is how I'm thinking, and you can start to question yourself here. And the second thing, which is more practical, is once you've built up your awareness, once you've built up your mindfulness here, is to see the bigger picture. Look at yourself in a way where you're not here just because someone has something that you don't have, you give up and you stop. Because like I said earlier on, it's just a cycle that repeats, turns into habits, and you're not even aware of these habits, and you're just all of a sudden you're just living a suboptimal life. But if you were to shift your mindset to be more, to have an optimal life, is to shift it to be on the journey of constantly improving. And if you look at the bigger picture, let's say you end of the year, right? December 31st, whichever year you're watching this on, December 31st, it could mark as the day that you want to achieve something. And then every year you're trying to look at the bigger picture, you're trying to improve, because the person you will be on December 31st will be completely different to the person you are right now. Even if you're watching this on December 30th, right? The person you are 31st of December will be completely different to what you are now. And to do that, you have to make sure every single day you have you're aware of everything, so you're mindful, but every single day that you slowly improve that, literally that tiny amount. You don't have to go into big changes. This is the mistake. If you dive into big changes because you want immediate results, then you're just going to go back to normal. It's the small 1%, because what it does is the magic of compounding. Because if you were to do this every day, which is achievable, by the way, it compounds, and all of a sudden you just turn into, you basically go through a series of change. You go through metamorphosis, and you start to become someone that is indistinguishable from yourself that you initially were. It's very powerful, like it really is. Like, I'm take it from me, like being honest here. Like, I remember December 31st, 2021. I had a completely different mindset, completely different. And like, when you start to reflect on how your last, let's say December 31st of your last year, you just see that change, and even if you don't see the change now, work on it now, work on it today, make yourself accountable for something and improve today, and then tomorrow do the same, and then the next day do the same, then the next week do the same, next month you've already hit 31 days of slowly improving. That has compounded into something massive already. Do that for another 12 months. Trust me, you will become completely different. You'll very much surprise yourself. So I think it's all about the slow change, and it's all about looking at the trajectory, right? Instead of the position that you're in now. Focus on the trajectory, not the position. It's all about seeing the bigger picture. And if you're in a slump right now, understand, right? Journal about it. Understand why you're in a slump at the moment. And what can you do today? What can you do right here today? But before you go to bed today, what can you do? As small as it is, what can you do to slowly improve? Ask yourself these questions and do them. If you can, write your wins. Even if it's something like, let's say you haven't, you're in a slump and you haven't even cleaned your room for the last couple weeks. For the last 3 months, you haven't cleaned your room. Clean your room today. It's possible. Small wins. If you can write them down, your small wins on your notes app on your phone, or small wins on a notebook like this. If you can just write them down, you will automatically, you're kind of affirming to your mind that, oh, this is progress here. This is progression. And once you start to see this slow progress, again, it compounds. These things become bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the end of it, trust me, you'll see the big change. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Talk about, like, whenever you start to question or compare yourself, then stop for a second and just think, why is it that I'm comparing myself? How can I make myself compare less? For me, it was about kind of removing myself from social media for a bit. I deleted social media for initially I wanted to delete social media for 2 weeks, I remember, and it felt really good, and I stopped kind of comparing myself a little bit less. Then I kept it on for a month. I stopped comparing myself. I saw a good change, so I actually then now it's been a year and a half without social media. But you don't have to do that. If you feel like social media is something that's causing you to compare yourself, then take a break. Even if it's just one day off your phone or 1 week, that's still big. So maybe from time to time you can start taking breaks. Or if it's not something to do with social media, if it's something different, try and ask yourself, what is it that I'm comparing myself? How can I minimize that as much as possible? And take those small steps. yeah, let me know what you think. But good luck.